Hello, we are Prophets of Rage. My name is Tom Morello. I'm the guitarist in that band.
I am Be Real, the herbal one.
Timmy C, bass player.
DJ Lord, turntablist.
Chuck D, microphone number 2.
Brad Wilk sends his regards.
Well, first of all, I'll just ask, did you ever consider having a woman in the band, singing on the record, participating in Prophets of Rage at all?
Well, I would say while there's a great deal of diversity, while Prophets of Rage ethnically represents a great deal of diversity, gender-wise, it is entirely homogenous currently, and that is it
was organic.
Yeah, this is how it developed. But I think that there's no reason why there should not be like a female version of Prophets of Rage combining metal, punk, hip-hop, multi-ethnicity. I throw that challenge to you. Perhaps you should form that band.
You know, we were getting suggestions to having Lady of Rage guest on a couple of songs, you know, and that wasn't a bad idea. But
a hip-hop artist. Some of you who may not know Lady of Rage.
That wasn't a bad idea, but, you know, we were already like
raging all the way down
and pretty much done with the album. But I mean, if there was any female that I would say that would match what we're doing, or they could come in, she could probably, you know, do a song or two that would lock in with us. I mean, she's the Lady of Rage, for Christ's sake.
and also live, it's happened a couple of times. Like we was in Chile, and Ana Tijoux got on stage.
She was a great Chilean.
She was dope.
She's great. She can be in the band. She's fantastic.
It's you know, it's not something that was ever out of the question, but I don't think it was ever, you know, a part of the thing, you know, because we just sort of came together organically and it wasn't contrived at all, you know. So I think if there was somebody in the beginning that we would have thought of, we would have gave it a shot.
Right.
But we were very comfortable with this squad. You know, Brad isn't here, but you know, salute Brad. Shout out.
I think it's a great idea. Someone go do it. Seriously, someone listening and watching, go do it.
Chuck and I will feature on that.
I will go see that. I will go see that. We will take that band out on tour.
Well, it was an all-women's band that did Rage Against the Machine covers from Thailand?
Indonesia.
Indonesia, right.
They're pretty great.
That wouldn't work though, because they'd be playing songs we're playing.
All right, we've promised to be succinct, and we were not.
What are those girls from Russia?
Pussy Riot.
Pussy Riot. You know, those probably are the only ones that speak to the shit we're talking about that could possibly, you know,
Nadia would be good. She'd be a wrecking ball in this band. She's good. She's good.
Nadia, you'd be a wrecking ball.
Where you at?
We'll put the word out there.
Yeah.
So I noticed the shirt you're wearing, Tom, which I believe is a Pink Floyd reference.
Yes, my shirt says, "Mother, should I trust the government?"
And I don't know if you saw this, but yesterday in the New York Times, Roger Waters wrote an op-ed. You know, he's very political.
Yes.
Palestine
is his
so,
issue.
But, you know, I'm just thinking in the history of protest songs and music, which you guys are part of.
Yes.
I mean, what are some of your favorites from history, from Buffalo Springfield to Billie Holiday to Bob? I was going to say Bob Seger. Pete Seeger might be better.
Pete Seeger and Bob Dylan.
Who are some of your inspirations in that protest music
political
world?
Well, you named a batch of them
Right.
right there.
Those ones.
The 60s were a period that they had to comment on real people doing real things. So it wasn't always about the musicians getting out there themselves, but they were the soundtrack for people who were doing real things that need to be recognized or illuminated, where the news had their one point of view on that. Artists going back as early as Josh White, you know, being blacklisted, and Paul Robeson and Pete Seeger and the Weavers and so on, came out of the 40s and 50s once the recording business became just more understood. So by the 60s, you had a 20-year period where young people were recording and speaking directly against the machine. So I grew up with that in the 60s and the 70s. So naming some of those same names and going in from a Sly and the Family Stone, also understanding the impact of the Beatles being your number one group that decides in 67 that we're just not going to make pop songs for pop's sake. We're going to say something to the world, and we're going to follow up on what Dylan did, and we're going to try, and you know, James Brown following out of that, seeing, you know, kids saying, you know, they should say that they're proud and say they're black and they're proud. You know, these things kind of, you know, as a child, you know, made me say, wow, this is something that my parents are teaching me, but popular culture is adding on to this. So fast forward into the millennium, second decade of the millennium, you have a lot of young people who have just come in while older people have passed on. And this is why racism still carries that stench. You got to eliminate the stench because it transfers through generations. So it's kind of holes right there. So as people go and people come in, you got to still come on, try to take on the same battles and do in new and different ways. It's not just going to take just us making songs. Maybe it's great performances. Maybe it's inspiring other bands that, yeah, you guys got to at least have one song for the community in the world too. You know, don't be afraid. We're going to be confident that we're going to be who we are, and we're not insecure in our point of view, and especially in our music. So these are some of the things that we learned from in the past, but the future is where this music is going to travel to.
I want to Bob Marley, Curtis Mayfield, the Beatles, and James Brown. You know, I think they spoke to social issues and at a time where they needed to, and those were some influences there that sort of kind of, you know, drive what we're doing today. So I would say for me, those were my influences in terms of that style of music.
The Clash, Public Enemy, Woody Guthrie, Bob Dylan, MC5, and Black Sabbath song War Pigs.
War Pigs, yep.
Mm-hmm.
I want to kind of extrapolate a little more on what Chuck D was talking about before about the future, especially for rock music in general, and what you think the role of rock music needs to be in the future of social change in this country and the world.
Well, you know, I think rock music needs to be entertaining first and foremost, you know, because without it rocking, no one gives two fucks about the message. You know, so I think people got to dial in their craft and learn how to make music again because, you know, I think technology gave people so many cheats and corner cuts that they forgot how to really make music. And without the right music, the message just is fleeting. So I think hone your craft and figure out what you want to say. You know, even if it's nothing, just hone your craft. But realistically, I think artists of every genre need to, you know, do some sort of soul searching and figure out what they really want to say. You know, is what they saying at this point in time really what they feel and what they mean and what they want to put out to the kids and to the world. You know, it's a gut check. We've gut checked ourselves, and this is why we're doing what we do. But that's our decision. You know, we make the music we make full on knowing the repercussions of it, that it's not marketable, that it's not the popular shit. It's not, you know, it's not something that the kids gravitate to automatically because, you know, the radio is not going to, you know, promote something that's that thought-provoking these days. So it's a gamble. It's a risk. But as an artist, that's, you know, an artist takes a risk with every album, you know, so if you want to say something, you should say something. If you want to say something and you don't, that's the worst fucking thing you can do as an artist because you're suppressing your own message. So, you know, say what you feel and recognize that there are repercussions behind that, good and bad, and you have to be willing to face up with them. We know that we're going to catch slack. We knew that people were going to say that we were Trump bashing, especially his supporters, but on our album, there's not one mention of his name. Sure, some of the songs are geared toward what is going on with him, but, you know, it's a choice we made to talk about what we want to talk about, the passion, and then the love for the music. So we're trying to rock the fuck out and say something within that that whole idea of rocking the fuck out, you know. So it's up to other artists to make the decisions for themselves, like what they want to say and what they want to do. There was a time in the 60s where every other artist was singing a protest song. In the 70s came along, it was more about dancing and, you know, having fun and an escape, you know. And the 90s came, and Chuck D and KRS-One and many groups, like, you know, in their same vein, we're talking about things, we're awakening people and inspiring. After that, you know, radio and the powers that be took those messages away because they, you know, it's too thought-provoking. They don't want people, you know, thinking for themselves. They want people distracted. So now you got a bunch of music out there that is distracting from the realities of life. So, you know, it all goes in cycles. We are a part of the cycle that's waking the people the fuck back up.
So I guess I'll have to ask. I know the record isn't out there, but there's been videos, singles, and
Sure.
you guys touring
Sure.
and EP. Has there been any backlash? And also, aren't you kind of just, I don't know if this is the right phrase, preaching to the choir? You're reaching people who already like you and know you. How are you going to reach new people and have people who didn't know about you fight against
There
you?
is always backlash. I mean, there's radio stations in some red states that will not play our music simply because of the content, you know, or because of the complexion of the band, you know, like that. And that's part of the reality of it. And who cares? That's the way I look at it. It's like you're not going to. The second you change your music to try to adapt, if you want everybody to like it, you want everybody to praise it, then you're probably making pretty shitty music, you know, to begin with. So we've never. That's not a thing. We even know how to do that.
We don't subscribe to
Yeah,
that.
yeah.
Why,
we wouldn't even, you know.
That's why there's no bands making music for the most part like we make.
Yeah.
Because it's harder. It's difficulty level extreme.
Yeah.
You know, it's hard.
And it's not just the music, it's what you're saying.
Yeah.
You know, it's we don't give a shit about being mainstream or pop. You know, we want to rock out and we want the message to be loud and clear. And you know, in terms of speaking to the choir, definitely there are people out there, the forgotten voices. But you know, like anything else, one voice speaks to another and to another. So, you know, we have the people that were Rage Against the Machine fans, Cypress Hill fans, Public Enemy fans that all love this group. But then there's fans who have never heard of any of our bands and love the Prophets of Rage for being the Prophets of Rage. So that's the cool part about it, is that we got new fans out there that maybe are unfamiliar with all of our back catalog as you know, in our individual bands. But you know, that's the beauty of it, is that we can keep the message alive from the three bands along with this new message from this new band, and just keep on expanding.
And I'm just curious, Tom, I guess as a Midwestern guy, I don't necessarily know where everyone else is, but presumably you grew up a little bit listening to Ted Nugent. So, and
did.
now there's people like Ted Nugent and
I still
Kid
listen.
Rock.
I still listen to Ted Nugent. Yeah,
Well, that's my question. Kid Rock, Ted Nugent,
Yeah.
more right-leaning than a
Yeah.
lot of
Yes.
musicians. Can someone still like music and not like the person who makes it?
Well, first of all, let me say that I'm a fan of Ted Nugent's music and Kid Rock's music, and I like both them as people. I consider them both friends. Like they're people that I may not agree with, you know, if we had a checklist of stuff, but they're both good, decent people, and I'm proud to be friends with both of them. So, and there's certainly no litmus test neither was there with Rage Against the Machine. Certainly there isn't with Prophets of Rage. Like, you don't have to be down with the message to enjoy. There's a place for you in the pit. And so many people, every day, somebody comes up to me and says, I was drawn to your band, normally Rage or whatever. I was drawn to your band because of the aggression and because it was powerful rock and roll, angry music. And then I was exposed to ideas that I had never heard in any of the other music that I listened to, and it changed my life. I hear that every single day. People who became university professors, or they became lawyers that defended homeless people, or they became brick-throwing anti-fascists in part because a set of ideas that did not exist in mainstream culture was introduced to them because the band rocked so fucking good, you know. And that's the message is in the mosh pit. It starts out this is not a college lecture, you know. It's not, I love Noam Chomsky, but I don't want to mosh to him, you know. So the first thing we have to do is make records that kick your ass, play shows that kick your ass, and then some of those in that audience may respond to the lyrical content or what the band
you know, and that's
ideology.
And that's with any music, because throughout time, and I'm sure Chuck has heard this too, you know, us being from the hip hop background, we get people and the alternative and rock genres that were fans of that sort of music and saying, hey, listen, I don't necessarily listen to hip hop, but I fuck with you guys. And, you know, even with Cypress Hill, we'd have people coming up, listen, I don't smoke weed, I never have, but I love what you guys are saying, and I agree with it, and I love the music. And
That's me. That's what I said to him.
And yes, and I believe the same to be true of the Prophets. You may not agree with our message, but some people are just fans of the music, and that's okay too.
Yeah.
Because if you don't get high, I still love you.
Yeah. Like I was a huge fan of bands like Motley Crue and AC/DC, and the lyrical content was super misogynist on the one hand and sort of quasi devil worshiping on the other. And I was neither down with women hating or the devil, and yet I love those bands. They were super rocking. So I could
True
choose
that.
to-
I'll agree with that. AC/DC was, yeah, but I
I'd
loved
be
them.
like,
Black
I'm
Sabbath
not
too.
down with the devil, but this
I'm
band
not.
is really good.
Yes.
Well, the band is Prophets of Rage. The album is out September 15th, and gentlemen, we need you. So thank you very much.
Thank
Thank
you
you
very
for
much
having
for
us.
having us.
Thank you for
There you go.
wanting us. Thank you for having us.
for having us here.
Ask Alice is brought to you in part by Napa Auto Parts. Stop by your local Napa Auto Parts store and conquer the job with Napa Know-How.